Hey guys, it's Jemmy. Today we are going to walk through the second beginner dungeon called the Fungal Grotto. This dungeon is located within the Ebonheart Pact in the map of Stone Falls. The recommended level for this dungeon is the same as the Banished Cells, which is level 12 through 15. The types of adds found in this dungeon are some goblins, mud crabs, and some droogs or dregs, whichever way you pronounce it, take your pick. For this walkthrough, we will follow the same format where we will speed through most of the mob fights, but the boss fights will be at regular speed. So this map, you're going to start off next to the beginning of the dungeon, and right in the beginning, you're going to see a group of adds. The recommended group setup for this dungeon is going to be, of course, the regular 1 tank, 1 healer, and 2 DPS for a max of a 4-party group. However, this can be completed without a tank, even though having a tank would be very useful in, mitigating some of that damage, as well as just keeping adds together so that your healer doesn't have a very difficult time and your DPS can focus on putting damage output out rather than trying to save their own skin. But right now, when tank rolls are so rare, you might have to consider settling for a 3rd DPS when you run this dungeon. It's just something to consider. The first boss we come across is Tuskad the Pack Master, who is surrounded by a couple of adds. Once the boss is engaged, all the adds will aggro as well, so DPS should focus on taking the adds down first while the tank establishes hate. However, if you do not have a tank, it would be more difficult since hate will go everywhere. Mostly though, it goes to the healer, maybe because healing generates more attention than just regular damage skills. Luckily, Tuskad doesn't really have any one-shotting moves, so if you have a tank, just refresh hate while DPS burns down the boss. And in the case where you do not have a tank, I would suggest trying to rotate hate among your group mates. If it's not possible and the boss is stuck on your healer, I would probably just say have the healer just assume the tank role and focus healing themselves, while the other 3, who are DPS, will be focusing on the boss, trying to put as much damage out to burn it as fast as possible. Just to further explain, if you are running a group of 3 DPS and 1 healer and are within the recommended levels of 12 to 15, you have to go into this dungeon with the assumption that there will be some hiccups along the way, maybe with some boss fights or even mob fights. That is because without a tank, aggro is just going to go everywhere. So if you choose to settle on the 3 DPS 1 healer, just know that it will be a little bit more challenging than a group with a tank. Also, unlike Banished Cells, the Fungal Grotto does have add goblins that are healers. So in mob fights, especially for the DPS, if you notice adds with staffs that glow yellow or even start healing other adds indicated by the yellow tether, interrupt them and make sure to take down the healers first. And here is what I mean. If you look in the back room, you should notice 2 enemies with staves that have this yellow ball that's on top, and they're even using the yellow tether right now. You want to run up to them, interrupt them, and take them down. You could refresh this interrupt process if they start using the yellow tether again, as long as you have the stamina to do so. The second boss in the Fungal Grotto is War Chief Ozazai, who brings 2 additional adds with him. Of course, focus the adds first, then to the boss. For Ozazai, the skill you need to really pay attention to is a skill that's kind of like a bomb on one select person, and then all those near that person will take damage as well. This move can one-shot group mates who aren't capped off on health, but don't really worry so much about that because it's a super easy skill to spot. Ozazai will tie a red tether from him and his target as seen right here. So all you have to do is whoever is targeted needs to run away from the group and block if they can. Once the bomb goes off, you are free to return back to the group to continue attacking and get healed by your healer. He does this several times during the fight, and it will be at random, so just notice your surroundings and see who the red tether is tied to. At that point, if you have it on yourself, then you need to get away from your group. If someone else has it and they're running towards you, then you need to run away from them until the bomb goes off. And of course, if any of your party members have fallen victim to the red tether bomb, pick them up if you can, especially if they are the healer or the tank. The only other skill that you have to worry about for War Chief Ozazai is just his normal one-handed sword attack. It's where Ozazai charges himself up for a full swing with his one hand, and you should see like little lines beside him, like right now. So you could either run away from him or roll away from him, or you could simply block. From this point, it's pretty much a rinse and repeat process. Just watch out for those red tether bombs and just make sure to stay away from your other group members. Once War Chief Ozazai has fallen, just loot his body, and one of the members in your group should have the quest where they get the head and stick it on that pike right there. Once you have done so, then basically kind of like the goblins switch forces to being on your side, I guess, and then you'll be able to progress further into the grotto. From here, all the goblins are going to be on your side now, so you could just freely run through this area. There are some sacks or bags here that you could collect, crates, barrels as well. There should be some hidden treasure chests nearby as well, so if you want to kind of mosey around there and just collect some items, then you could definitely do so. But if you continue forward, you should meet this line of defense area where the ads will change from, your regular goblins that we've seen so far to these droogs now. And then later on, it will be the mud crabs. You should see them in like groups of like 3. So you'll see 3 right now, and then later on you should see like another 3 or another 2. So it's around 3 to 2. And as I mentioned about those mud crabs, they do come out in packs or groups or swarms, whatever you want to call it. If you engage one of them, all of them will kind of aggro together. By themselves, they don't do very much damage. However, if they're all attacking you or if they're kind of swarming one person, then that's when they really start to hurt. At this point, you want to start using all of the moves that you have that are AoE, or just simply take them down one by one as quick as possible if you don't have any AoE moves. If you look ahead and once you pass the bridge, you're going to see 2 sets of ad droogs. The one to the left, where the NPCs are going to, are just regular ads of droogs. You want to take those down to just kind of give you a little bit more space on that map. But on the right hand side, where you see that larger droog that's red, that is actually the 3rd boss. So you want to make sure not to aggro that boss on accident. You want to take care of these ads here, then kind of regroup with your party members. Make sure that everyone is alive and has full MP and health before engaging the next boss. Here is the 3rd boss, and its name is the Blood Birther, with 2 additional ads on each side. As we should know by now, we want to focus on the ads first and then to the boss. Once the ads are down, the Blood Birther himself isn't really a difficult boss at all. There are 2 noticeable moves that he does. One is a frontal conus AoE, so anyone standing in front of him and you see that red indicator in the shape of a triangle, that is your cue to roll or move away. The second skill is a pull, where the Blood Birther will randomly pull a party member. It doesn't really do damage, but it can interrupt your skills. It's just kind of more of a nuisance rather than, a deadly skill to watch out for. Other than those 2 skills, with the exception of basic droog attacks, this boss is pretty much a tank and spank. Just watch out for any red indicators, and once the boss is dead, collect your reward. After the third boss, across the bridge, you should start seeing your bosses back to back. Across this bridge right here, after these sets of ads, you'll see the fourth boss, whose name is Clatterclaw. He is basically a giant mud crab surrounded by a posse of little mud crabs. Clatterclaw doesn't do anything really besides his basic attacks and summoning more mud crabs. Again, these little mud crabs don't hurt by themselves or alone, but when they gang up on one person, they start to really hurt. Thus, before the mud crab population gets out of hand within this fight, you want to make sure to use any kind of AoE skills that you have, or if you're a DPS and you're just kind of a single target attacker, then that's fine. Just move through them as quick as possible, then return back to the boss. If there's more mud crabs that are being summoned, then again return back to eradicating those additional adds, then return back to the boss. That's pretty much basically the entire fight in a nutshell. Clatterclaw is pretty easy, I guess. It's easier than the other boss, the third boss, Blood Birther. So that's personally what I think, but it could depend on, I guess, how your group is made up. Just to let you guys know. So once you collect the bounty from Clatterclaw, you're gonna go across one more bridge to another island here where you will encounter the final boss. And the final boss within the Fungal Grotto is Krog the Droog King. There are a couple of skills to watch for. First is a pull, like we saw in the third boss, the Blood Birther. It doesn't do damage, but it is a precursor to the next skill, which is a massive AoE attack where a large red circle will extend out from Krog himself. Anyone caught in that field will take massive amounts of damage and could be possibly one-shotted. If you are ranged weapon users, you would generally be safe, but for tanks and melee weapons or people who have been pulled in, make sure to roll or dash out of the circle before the animation goes off. Krog will also dig up mud crabs during the fight. When these mud crabs appear, DPS them down before returning back to the boss. If you do have any ultimates to use, this is the time to use them because this is the final boss, of course, to help aid you in burning down Krog even faster. So that wraps up Fungal Grotto, guys. Take this time after to retrace your steps back to find all the hidden chests that are available in this dungeon for more loot, as well as the lore book that is in the beginning of the dungeon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next dungeon, Spindle Clutch. If you missed the first dungeon we covered, which was the Banished Cells, I'll leave that link in the center right here for you. If you would like to stay updated with the latest videos as soon as we upload them, we'd love you to join us by clicking the button right on top. I do also have a vlogging channel where you could get to know a little bit more about Jimmy behind these videos with the link below. Feel free to find me on other forms of social media such as Twitter, Facebook, and more, with all the convenient links listed in the description box below. Love you guys and have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!